After the somewhat controversial first outing for the Green Teens on the NES, you would be forgiven for thinking that 8-bit owners were in for a bumpy ride when it comes to any additional sequels that Konami would put out for the system. I mean, in 1989 I remember seeing an advert on the TMNT movie VHS tape for home versions of the arcade on various consoles. Imagine my disappointment when I heard that the Nintendo Entertainment System was not at all mentioned. However, just a year later, Konami would ambitiously release a port of the arcade game for the system anyway. Meanwhile, with the internet not really being a thing yet, 16-bit consoles on the horizon, and with my contentment with playing as many Game Boy games as I could thanks to swap shops and trade-ins, I was blissfully unaware that this had occurred. Even if I had been, there was just no way I was able to play it, as we as a family only really had a handful of games for the system, and you have to remember that back in those days cartridges were pretty expensive. Fast forward 20 plus years, and thanks to the power of emulation carts, I'm now able to play TMNT2, the arcade game, in 8 glorious bits. The game itself is a stripped down version of the arcade which tries to pack in everything that version had. You would think that there's just no way it could happen, it's just not possible. Konami however worked their socks off and would not take no for an answer, and what you are seeing is probably one of the best brawlers to ever grace the NES. So you can choose any one of the 4 heroes to play as you work your way above and below New York City to stop Shredder and Krang, who have once again kidnapped April O'Neil and Splinter and sent the Foot Clan out to destroy anyone who gets in their way. You see, this is what the first TMNT game should have been. It's a side-scrolling beat 'em up where you take your chosen protagonist through various stages, fighting various foot soldiers, robots and stage hazards, and fighting, using that word again, various villains ripped from the Turtles universe. I mean, there's even some comic book style skills and cutscenes which tell the story really well as you battle through each stage. The graphical style is richer, larger and far more clearer than in the first game, with some amazing effects and objects such as explosive barrels that can be used to blow up some annoying bad guys, large laser guns and magic tigers. Since the first game only really felt a little like the show, this game does more to remind fans of why they fell in love with the Turtles in the first place. Bebop and Rocksteady return a lot bigger and more dangerous, as do newcomers Baxter Stockman in both human and fly form, General Trag, and even an evil hockey mask wearing samurai. This game is more than just a port, as Konami went all out and created some extra levels especially for the game. Whilst this version does flicker occasionally at times, working hard to reproduce what the arcade version does so flawlessly, the gameplay is surprisingly fast paced, solid, tense and exciting, and each one of the turtles differ in how they attack, with Leonardo and Donatello having long range attacks, and Raphael and Michelangelo with short range attacks. There's also a 2-player mode, so you and a friend can team up and work together to take the fight to the Shredder and his goons. The bosses are the most impressive things in this game. They attack you in various different ways, and it's hard to sometimes predict their patterns as they change it up, making them a real thrill and challenge to fight. I should also mention that if you want to play this, then be prepared to have your shell handed back to you many times, as it's balls to the wall in difficulty, throwing so much at you at all times. You get a total of 3 lives and 3 continues, and boy are you going to need each and every one of them. Now, anyone thinking that you can just go into this game and button bash will be disappointed. This being a Konami game, you have to plan your attacks and learn which pattern of enemies does what. There's plenty of levels to battle through, and you'll be fighting in a burning building, the streets in Arctic New York City, and even in the infamous Technodrome where a final battle with Krang and Shredder ensues. On the surface, many players who play this for the first time might get frustrated by the difficult nature of the game. Again, this game is NES hard and expects you to put the time in to learn how to play effectively. Once you start to find your feet, however, the game opens up and becomes an enjoyable Turtles romp. Whilst it also takes incredible skill to get through the first few stages and plenty of tough enemies, TMNT2 does at least throw in some humour, such as foot soldiers throwing snowballs in the Arctic stage and the turtles falling down open manholes. The controls themselves work perfectly with the NES's pad layout, with A allowing you to jump, B attacking, and A and B performing a special attack which will wipe out the enemy but drains a smidgen of health. I was expecting the controls to be quite clunky and slow, but they are surprisingly smooth. I know it's extremely tempting when you see the bosses to go up to them and spam them constantly, but that will only get you so far. You have to treat each one like a boxing match, sticking and moving, which is pretty much the only way you'll ever survive. So with a limited number of lives and continues, you will slowly learn to adapt if you want to at least make it through the next couple of levels. The game does have slices of pizza to collect in some stages which refill your chosen turtle's health, but the problem I found is that even trying to be as careful as I could in this game, I would still get beaten and lose a life just before I reached those slices, and by the time I did, the damage was already done, and because my life was full due to the loss, the pizza did absolutely nothing. Also, for every 200 points you earn on this game, you are awarded an extra life. However, this takes time to build up, and just like the pizza slice, I would earn a life, but most of my health and remaining lives were severely rinsed when I got the points. Most times I would just about break even. I'm not complaining at all about the difficulty, as even with those issues I started to get a lot better at the game, and respect the fact that this second turtle outing makes you earn everything you get by adopting sound strategy and strict level memorization, something which we old school gamers had to rely on a lot. So with this immense difficulty, can I recommend TMNT 2? Well, only if you know that it's going to beat you down more times than you beat it. However, don't let that put you off. I myself can only get so far in this game, and I do understand that it can feel like a Herculean task, but if you keep plugging away, and even if you manage to get a little bit further, it's a fun and addictive experience. Konami are like the Mary Poppins of the gaming world, packing in pretty much everything from the arcade and adding tons more stuff, all in a tiny 8-bit cartridge, which is a massive achievement. Thank you very much for watching my review. If you have enjoyed it, then why not hit that subscribe button, as you'll really be helping my channel to grow, and you'll also be instantly notified every time I upload a new video. Take care, and I'll see you next time.